Next, let me introduce Luis Macias, who is the CEO and founder of GrainChain, which is using blockchain in the supply chain in the dry goods area. Luis, tell us more about
Good
what you're
afternoon.
doing.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Digital Chamber, for inviting me here today. GrainChain was established mainly to understand not only the supply chain records that are coming from farmers into facilities, into buyers, into sellers, but what it's really doing is it's trying to legitimize not only what is coming from the fields, what is being processed and how it's getting there, but it's really being able to use that information to create efficient and fast settlements. And what we're trying to do is put out a suite of products that touch different parts of the supply chain, including origin information, logistics information, inventory information. And we're using IoT integration to be able to validate that information. So we're taking the power out of people and giving it to systems to be able to validate the information that's coming in. Having that type of information allows us to feed it to our digital ledger, and it allows us to feed it to our blockchain so that we can settle these in a very fast manner. What it does is it not only validates the data, but it ensures that contracts are being executed properly. The world of smart contracts is a fascinating world, and we're seeing it in the financial markets. We're seeing it in all different types of markets. But when the data is validated by systems, by IoT integration, and by getting source data and putting it into immutable records, we create a very, very powerful ecosystem. An ecosystem that allows us to give liquidity to farmers, an ecosystem that gives trust to the transactions that are being committed, and it starts leveling the playing field for all of our participants. It starts giving the strength for our farmers to be able to show data, show valid data, and people trust that data. At the end of the day, what it does is it gives our farmers a bigger piece of the pie. It brings them up with a sword and a shield in the industry, and it shows that not only are they doing things right, not only are their products following good sustainable practices, but what it also does is it gives them a little bit more ability to ask for more money, get a little more piece of that dollar that goes to the food supply industry. What we're trying to do overall is really give transparency to this, give the ability for farmers, for buyers, and for all the banks and participants in the industry a very, very strong, clear, and transparent record that cannot be modified, it cannot be changed, and it can be trusted.
Jacob talked, Luis, about the challenges of linking a physical unique asset to the blockchain. You're doing the same with grain and other dry goods. Tell us how you overcome those challenges. And then I'd like to follow up with Nick. How does that linkage work in the legal world where we talk about UCC filings, bills of lading, the bits of paper you mentioned? Luis, what are the challenges of linking up the physical with the technical?
Excellent question, Jonathan. We leverage technology as far as IoT integrations into not only the laboratories, but the grading devices that come into play. We link what the scales are telling us when the trucks are coming in. We verify it with physical sensors and tanks, and we come up with a certificate that allows us to physically verify that this product has come into play. But there's a little more than just knowing that the product is in the tanks. There's understanding where it came from and what fields it came from. We have a logistic product called Harvex that allows us to not only track as it's being picked up from the fields, but it allows us to track the path that it got there, who got it there, and what process it took when it got to the different facilities. When we put all of this information together, it becomes extremely difficult to forge or fraudulently insert a product into a facility. What that allows us to do is really give paperwork, digital paperwork that has signatures from devices that cannot be manipulated to have proof of the actual items. That really helps the process that Nick is going to talk about or potentially talk about when it comes to liens, when it comes to collateral, and when it comes to products that are physically in a place that have banks or different types of buyers trying to verify that information. So we're really shortening the path that it takes to get these documents and get these different verifications in a digital payload that can be verified and cannot be manipulated.
Luis, I recently dropped one of my sons off at university, and as my wife and I took some of the back roads through the country, we went through recently harvested wheat fields, and we went by big grain elevators, and sometimes we even got stuck behind trucks carrying lots of grain. And I kept thinking of you. What is it that excites your customers about your blockchain-based solution? I'm sure it's not Merkle trees and nonces and the technology. What is it that excites your customers?
I mean, I think the least common denominator and the most exciting part of all of this is getting paid faster. Is that when an industry buys a product, there is a process that needs to go through where they need to verify the information before they can pay. When a farmer drops off his corn at an elevator, the product needs to be graded. Then that all of those different laboratory results, those physical evidence of product, the shipping, all of that needs to be put together for somebody to get paid. But that's the most exciting, easiest sell. The biggest thing that I'm getting my farmers excited about, that I'm getting my customers excited about, is being able to market their product with real information to get them a little more, from what they have, to be able to allocate products into areas that need the product that have a shortage. The reality is that there is a lot of lack of transparency in that process that allows for a lot of intermediaries to get that money, that allows for a lot of intermediaries to take advantage of a system that has been there for a very long time. And what really is getting our customers excited and our participants excited is the ability to create more farm gate pricing, to be able to have real data that's verified, that they wouldn't have had the technological infrastructure to provide, and to be able to get these products faster to the people that need them, to be able to get processing plants to be able to buy directly from farmers because they understand and they can see the data as it comes in. So we're really changing the way that people work by not only getting them liquidity faster, which is imperative in our industry, but we're changing the way that it works by being able to get them closer to the final end user, by being able to get end users to understand where the things are coming from. With products and technology, how we're applying it, we're going to be able to change not only the way that consumers look at products, but we're going to be able to change the way that farmers are going to be able to compete with some of the larger conglomerates to be able to ensure that their product is real, that the process was correct, and that they can sell this in a very efficient manner. How do big financiers, how do corporations trust the data that's on a blockchain? Just because it's immutable, just because it is a great system to implement with this data, how do we trust that information is the correct information? And I think that one of the big things that we are doing, and a lot of the people doing things correctly in this industry, is they're removing the ability for humans to enter this information. They're getting it directly from systems and not people. And I'm not saying that people aren't trustworthy, but there's mistakes and there's situations that can cause for fraudulent activity. And when we integrate this IoT world, when we integrate the amount of information that is being produced by logistics management systems, inventory management systems, and IoT devices, we start adding a level of very verifiable information that allows us to implement UCCs or warehouse receipts that increase liquidity in what we're doing.
And Louise, I wouldn't be surprised if it's already happening, but I'm sure over the next 5 years, you're going to find yourself effectively being audited by financial institutions who are coming to say, you know what, I like this idea. You know, I want to satisfy myself with how it works. And at that point, you know, I'll be very comfortable financing against it.
Absolutely. And that's one of the big efforts we're doing right now, working with different institutions on how to modify the warehouse receipt laws around the world to be able to understand and process this data so that we can audit it properly and verify that what we're doing is the future.
Who pays for the use of your technology? Luis, in your case, is it the farmers? Is it the grain operators? Ultimately, it's probably the consumer. And Shane, in your case, is it me with my passport? Is it the airline when I'm showing it to show that I'm safe to get on? Who's paying for this? Luis?
So we try to share the cost of the operation of the infrastructure. When we implement systems, we try to get cooperatives, larger buyers, different types of market participants each pay a little bit of what's going on. Usually, we can show a very, very effective return on investment when it comes to investing in this kind of technology. And what we do is we try to not only share the cost of it, but be extremely transparent of how and where we charge on how this works. What we strive to do is not only show them where getting money faster, where being able to sell the product for more money, where being able to save on logistics costs and overall record keeping, and be able to have efficiencies in auditing and implementation pays for itself many times over. We try to share this among all of the participants so that not only is the infrastructure cost not a burden, but it's a benefit.
So I know that when a new product comes out, there are always practical, business, and regulatory hurdles that are in the way of adoption in any industry. The Chamber of Digital Commerce is the industry's voice in Washington, D.C. So we're here at least virtually in Washington, D.C. today. What would your ask be of legislators and regulators?
I think we need to treat it for what it is. It's technology. It's a technology that's enhancing what we're doing. And I think that a lot of people, when I walk into a room and start talking about blockchain technology, they immediately close off and get defensive. When it comes to the finance area, when it comes to banks, when it comes to movement and regulation. I think that we need to understand that blockchain technology is an enhancing technology, is a technology that's going to get us to the finish line faster, and that it's going to actually do the opposite of what most of the people who have doubts of the technology do, is that it's going to give us an audit trail. It's going to give us efficiency, and it's going to take away a lot of the opacity of the transactions. You know, we deal a lot in Central and South America, and we deal a lot in Mexico, and we're going global. And when we start talking about blockchain technology, the conversation changes. We need to understand that it is a technology that's not only going to enhance what we're doing, but understand that we can prove the auditability. We can prove what the technology can do. If I walk into a room and tell a banker that I'm going to get him paid faster, he's going to smile. But if I walk into a room and tell a bank that he's going to get paid faster via blockchain technology, he's going to tell me to talk to 4 of his lawyers, his CFO, and 3 other regulators. So I think it's very important to analyze that the technology is an enhancing technology to practices that are no longer viable in some different industries. And if we can get them to not only understand, I think that they're going to enjoy what we're doing more than kind of scoop back and say, let's talk to these 5 other people before we start talking about how you're going to make my life make my life a lot better.